Hi, this is Paula Gloria, and this show is called Farther Down the Rabbit Hole because we like to go into topics more deeply. Notwithstanding Harold Channer's viewpoint about the comprehensive view, that we need to see things in a very wide way, as well as study things in a very focused and deep way. If we study too many things in a focused and deep way, and we don't connect the dots, and we lose sight of the comprehensive viewpoint, we're not as successful as we can be. Today, I'm hoping that alternative media can do exactly this, both go into topics more deeply and keep in mind a comprehensive viewpoint. And today, I'm able to explore this more with an artist, a musician, and his name is Steve Nichols. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Paula. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. My excitement about having Steve with me on this show is that he has been able to, as many artists are able to do, look into topics not as affected by the social conditioning. And in particular, Steve, I'm really excited about the work that you've done with the television fakery during 9/11. You managed to bring an upbeat note to a very depressing topic. Can you tell me about your journey in this, how you first discovered it, and then how you brought your art into it?
Okay. To start at the beginning, when 9/11 happened, I actually didn't question anything about it. I just swallowed the official story, hook, line, and sinker, for a little while, and began to look into some of the truth movement stuff, some of the Alex Jones stuff, Loose Change, 9/11 Mysteries, that type of stuff, and became convinced that it was something fishy was going on, that it was an inside job, at least, that the official story didn't ring true. And then on YouTube, I discovered Nico Haupt and the TV Fakery evidence, and immediately, even back in '01 when it happened, while I swallowed the official story, hook, line, and sinker, the Evan Fairbanks shot in particular, where it's straight up, I always thought that looked like a bad special effect and that the plane melted into the building, and I always thought that was very funny. So I had a kernel of doubt even back then.
Right. Someone said he would have had to have been in a manhole to get that shot.
The angle, everything about that shot screams fishy.
So when did you actually bring your artwork into this process?
Probably, actually, earlier this year is when I started putting the videos up on YouTube.
Uh-huh.
But I've been making music since 1997.
Right, I know. I heard the discussion at dinner between you and Nico. You know, you have 3,000 vinyl records.
Yep, over 3,000.
You're both DJs.
Yep, DJ.
It wasn't actually until I sat with you at dinner that I realized that, you know, we all know Nico Haupt as the 9/11 guy, but you made me realize he's a musician.
Right. You said it was fascinating to see a side of Nico other than the 9/11.
Right, and to eat was so vigorously, you know, 3 big pieces of pizza was very heartening. So, but tell me, if you started to make the music, put the music to these images, how long was it before you questioned the TV images until you put them to music? Because I sense one goes through sort of shock, anger, upset, depression, whatever. Did you go through any of these emotions?
I remember one night when I was first really thinking about it, I had a moment where it dawned on me that what we were told happened wasn't true, and this, like, a fear and just a realization of the full scope of the situation.
The enormity.
The enormity of the situation. I remember that very specifically. And I don't know that it was a conscious decision to put my music and my art in it in the way that I do, but it quickly evolved to a conscious, concerted effort to present things in a light and creative and fun and humorous way.
Right.
To hopefully bring people in to the subject a little more, you know, casually and comfortably.
Yeah, right. I remember John Anthony West. You probably don't know who he is, but he does a lot of work with ancient Egypt and to try to imagine how civilizations prior to ours were thinking about things. And he often said that short of scripture, the next best thing, or very high, is humor, because you're juxtaposing 2 impossible things, and it's done in such a way that people can kind of lift up into another. I guess he was comparing it to transcendental literature.
It's sort of a border dissolving thing, humor. It dissolves borders and boundaries, and people put their guards down, don't you think? Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Should we do a roll-in now?
Love to. Sure.
Are we ready for a roll-in in the control room? And I think what we're going to be looking at is, it's on the second page of your playlist. Oh, there we go.
Yep.
I wonder, guys, if we can re-cue that in a moment and show that again. If we can re-rack it and show it again. I wonder if we can re-rack it and show it again. Coming at it, and there it goes. It just slices that tower in half. You'll see the plane. 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 Show that again. You see the fire coming out of the first building there, the plane on the lower left side of your screen. And it looks to me, and I'll confess I don't have the greatest monitor here, that you could almost see the nose of that plane coming through the other side of the building.
Penetrates the building. Penetrates the building. Go ahead. Completely in one side and out the other. And out the other. It just disappears. Disappears like a bad special effect. It just disappears. Disappears like a bad special effect. Disappeared right into the building. Disappeared right into the building. I've seen it 6-7 times now. It's still incomprehensible what is actually happening there.
That may have been an illusion. I wonder.
Wow. So, can you talk about that?
Okay, the main clip that was featured there was the Evan Fairbanks clip that we were talking about, and it made me think, you know Jeff from PumpItOut.com?
Yeah, the guy that with a nice voice, kind of sweet guy. He calls up the different agencies and says, how can a Boeing fly that fast? And
he actually had Evan, the guy that shot that shot, on the phone, and he was asking him if if he was crouched down to get that angle, and he's saying no, he wasn't crouched down or anything. And
that was the telltale.
Yeah, and you also see the guy doesn't hear the plane. He only looks when the explosion happens. Like, you think he'd look up at that plane, but he doesn't. It's almost as if he doesn't hear a plane. And you can see the reflection on the screen. How can an object reflect something that's behind it?
Right.
You see the plane and the building is behind it, and you see this reflection. So is that some sort of monitor or type of situation? So.
When the way you do things, you have that.
The cut up.
What is that about? Because you're very distinctive in your style that way. I've looked at a lot of the 9/11 TV Fakery, mock-ups and mash-ups and remixes and mirrors, but yours is distinctive.
That's just sort of speaks to my general philosophy and style and art in general. I would say sort of a cut up, a beat, a different type of thing, yeah. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it, I guess.
What was the last one you did, the soft porn?
Nothing But Hot Girls.
Nothing But Hot Girls. I must say, ladies and gentlemen, his mastery of this topic just really lifts up the essence of femininity, and the way you catch the movement of the body. It's just elevating, and then to be able to take that quality to elevate an audience to look at such a bleak topic as the fact that our media is deceiving us. It's like when you repeat that, it's like that's exactly the spot where you want to leave, you want to disconnect, you want to deny.
Yes.
And then you keep repeating that over and over. Do you think in many ways that's what artists do?
Yes, and I think in many ways that was actually intentional.
That was intentional,
yes,
yeah.
Yes.
I mean, when I say artists do that, I mean, I think throughout the ages, artists have helped us, have fortified us to do what...
To show you what you can't, what you wouldn't notice by yourself, sort of to break you out of your normal everyday consciousness and make you look at something from a different perspective.
Right,
Right.
right. And to bring harmony and beauty into it. That even though it's gruesome, that somehow, because it's the reality, you are entering more into truth.
Yep. If you wanted to play that one, that's on the bottom of that page.
On the second page?
Yeah, if you wanted to roll that one.
Should we do another roll-in? Let's go back again to page 2 and then just see if we can get another roll-in. Or maybe we could, yeah, that's okay. Show it. If you can show the page and we can talk through it.
One moment.
Seeing the page is fine. Okay. No, not that one. That's
The
not
lens of a
TV
motion
Fakery.
picture projector, the lens of...
We don't want to show that one, do we?
No, somehow they got onto the first page again.
Let's go to the second page. And
Talking while he gets it.
okay.
Yeah, because you brought that up. I didn't know if you wanted to show that one, the one with the girls and everything. I figured if you wanted to show that one.
Yeah, let's show that one. I'll edit it out, you know, if it's not appropriate for a daytime audience. 'Cause
Oh,
it's,
I wasn't even thinking of that.
what's that?
That it might not be appropriate.
Yeah, but that's okay. It'll be appropriate for an evening one, or I'll
Don't
put
put
it.
it up if you're gonna edit it out. You put it in later. What's the name of the one that you really want?
Might as well have fun.
Might as well.
You want to do that one?
Yeah, sure. This is a nice one because I'm in it. But I really felt you got me. You know, I hadn't even known you that well or didn't discuss much, but you just watched what was happening at Ground Zero with a little confrontation with, you know, We Are Change and the police, and
Right.
you just captured it in a few moments. So that's called again what?
Might as well have fun.
Might as well have fun.
It's on the second page of the TV Fakery playlist on my channel.
Yeah. And then below,
Far down, which means
The
go
second.
next.
yeah.
A quick thing about the TV Fakery, a point that I think is TV Fakery can be proven, and controlled demolition and all these other theories are theories. They're very good theories and they might have a lot of evidence, but TV Fakery is more of a discovery than a theory. Now, it's irrespective of whether real planes hit the towers or not. You'd have to ask the question, why fake it if it really happened? But
Someone said it would be very difficult to get planes to do that. They explained when they called up, Pump It Out, when he called up to Boeing, he said you couldn't get that kind of speed. That's the lady said it.
Yeah, at sea level, can you get that kind of
Yeah.
speed at sea level?
Yeah, too. So what you're saying is you can. That's the most provable.
Yeah, like the things like you have a CBS live shot of the second plane, and you see
What's
it.
a CBS?
CBS?
Oh, CBS.
Yeah, Columbia Broadcasting System. I think there's the video.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you might hit it back and then make it big, and we'll. Great. That's Nico Haupt, a couple blocks from the World Trade Center.
Binary economics.
Gloria, producer. We tried to make it fun. Anyway, so what do you think about this?
Binary economics.
TV fakery, video fakery, and media fakery. Again? 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 Nigga, I find it very funny. I find it very funny. I find it very funny. Nigga.
going. You cut it out.
Yeah, but it's total repetition. You want
No,
to waste the whole show on this?
That's the art.
That's the art, Gloria.
You want to waste your show? You're on the air. You can put it in later.
What's that?
The answer is yes.
The answer is yes, Gloria. We'll have to start it all over again. Because no, you can't do that. You got to start from the beginning. Okay, that's the art.
It's a waste to some people.
It's a waste to some people.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna listen to it on public access. They gotta turn it fucking off.
I hope we have your voice recorded.
Yeah, I could use
We
that.
do actually.
Let me use that in the mix.
Okay, okay, that's fine, Gloria. We're making art one way or another. We're all part of this. Are you lighting up, Joe? No. Okay, Gloria doesn't want to do it, so we won't do it. But let's continue on with the discussion. So that was an example of a very sophisticated underground expression of music. And in listening to you and Nico last night, I could again appreciate that. Can you talk about this type of music?
Well, obviously, it's not for everyone. Some people just don't get it. It's very easy to look at it and dismiss it as repetition.
Right.
But there's more to it than that if you give it a fair chance.
Right.
I think so.
Can I ask you something? What else is there besides repetition?
What else is there besides repetition?
Yes, what is it? It's a synthesizer and it's iMovie.
It's not a synthesizer and it's not iMovie. It's all done by...
It sounds like a synthesizer.
It sounds like a synthesizer, but it's not a synthesizer. And
why would you want to imitate a synthesizer and call it art?
Every sound, the video, whenever you see the video, you hear the sound to the video. So I'm making music using a little clip of Nico's voice and then Paula saying economics, and I took the E of her saying economics, and I made a beat out of that. And I cut it together to make an original composition. Instead of using like a horn note and a piano note, you can chop the video up, and it's very enjoyable to some people.
It's also a new expression of art because people didn't have these tools in the past. So you're actually using it in a new way.
It's take media and not just absorb it, but use it.
Wait, excuse me, did you study subliminal messages?
I've
Because that's what this is, subliminal messages. It's pure propaganda and brainwashing.
What's the subliminal message?
There is no message there, and I don't know what you're trying to get across, but the one with the airplane, is a subliminal message.
What's the subliminal message?
What you're trying to say, which I believe, however, that makes me hesitate to believe it.
What is the subliminal message that I'm trying to get across?
I don't know, when you keep banging, and repetition.
You can't make an accusation. You can't make an accusation.
That subliminal is constant repetition.
In the sentence you just said, there was a subliminal message, and I picked up on it. Prove me wrong.
Prove you right.
Well, what was the subliminal message in my video?
What are you trying to say in your video?
The plane one?
Which one?
Plain one.
I'm trying to say,
What?
is that a plane? Did it look like a plane to
But
you?
just
Did
a
you ever
second.
see a plane lose its wings and then get them back? Have you ever seen a plane wings disappear?
Where do they come back?
Watch the video.
They don't seem to come back. The plane's
didn't see
going
them
400
come
miles
back.
an hour, disappearing into a glass building.
I wasn't actually looking for a confrontation. I feel very contentious energy here.
Shall we go beat on them?
No,
I think
don't.
having
No.
a good discussion about the purpose of art, though, I think that's important. So,
I know it's not for everybody, and I didn't see why she took it upon herself to attack
Well,
the art.
but the whole thing starts is that one man's meat is another man's poison. What's artistic to one person is not to another. Now, what I gathered having dinner with you last night with Nico and you was I felt like a person of an advanced generation sort of eavesdropping on what younger people are thinking and feeling, and I felt very honored to have actually been there and to sort of participate in the energy. Although it's not the type of music I would have looked at before I knew you, because of the topic and because of the excitement that I have about the freshness of youth. I mean, their eyes are sharper, their ears are sharper, There's an excitement about their life ahead of them. They want to contribute to change things. You can show enormous wrongs that are going on in the world. And a young person, I think rightly educated or brought up with a lot of love, like I can tell from your family, your parents and your dad and your grandfather, giving you the feeling that you can make a difference, that your life is important and that you can contribute and encourage other people to look on the optimistic side, the creative side. You come from a family of contractors like I do. And when I was back with my father and my brother, we were making a TV show. There's a little bit of shame that, you know, we're not TV people, we're not intellectuals, we're not professors. But I saw why I was born into that family. We're creators. You know, my dad would go to the post office, he would put in the contracts, he'd get the jobs. When I was teaching meditation, he was sorry I didn't have any money. He'd give me some little simple jobs to put up, you know, hospital here, or, you know, fire hydrant there, or, you know, for putting out fires. I made money on that. And it wasn't my shtick. I did stay with it a long time. But I admire that I come from that type of family. And I think the fact that we have today failed institutions, the fact that the people who are the experts are not coming forward on this because their funding is jeopardized or whatever, and that it's finally in the hands of young artists and musicians who are sharp and who hear and who see, speaks of the Dharma falling apart in society, because the caste system means that different families that are better at doing things do those things that they're better at. If you see your dad, you know, you said he was a plumber before, you know, if you grow up watching him with his tools, you have that confidence that you can command on those tools and solve people's problems when there's drips and leaking.
And you don't get pigeonholed into a certain thing. You're open to using all tools
Well, this is what comes up with Harold Chanter that I'm so fascinated with. If most of the wealth today is created not through labor and jobs, but through capital assets, then when we graduate towards full unemployment, the society should be fully unemployed, where people are only doing what is in their hearts to do and to share, and they have art and creativity and all that, then they can come from being a plumber or come from being a doctor or a surgeon. Say you're a doctor and you find yourself obliged to be giving Ritalin to kids, and you see it's no good for the kids, for example. I mean, there's a lot of things we know in the medicine where, I mean, I've heard one lady said her father, who was a doctor, said if he had it all over to do again, he would not be a doctor. It's not because he doesn't want to help people. It's exactly because he wants to help people, and his hands are tied. So I think the failure of the institutions is showing up by the disenfranchised, which generally has been the artists. They follow their passion, they collect 3,000 records, probably pay their last buck doing it, right? You work at contracting to get your money.
Scrape by,
yeah.
It made me think of something. You said the society should be completely unemployed, and people should do things that they want to do. And people would naturally want to do things that would help, be a doctor, build houses, fix things. And think about it, what is going to get a better job done? Going into something that you don't want to do because you have to do it, because you're forced in by all these exterior, you know, things, or something that you want to do because it's a passion and it's something you want to do, you know what I mean?
Right, you'll do better at it because it's your passion. In a way, we should all be artists. Gloria, I think you can agree with that because, you know, when I've interviewed you and you've talked about your story, you help on public access because of how it makes you feel. Marshall Rosenberg says the need to contribute is the greatest human need.
I'm sorry, I did not mean to attack or it to be construed that way. It's just that the constant repetition, that for some reason hits a nerve and gets me very, very annoyed.
Well, I appreciate that honesty. I mean, and furthermore, Gloria, I treasure what you just said because it's a barometer of surely what other people are feeling, right? I mean, she's not unique in that way.
Not in the least.
That's probably why young people just enjoy their music by themselves, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of felt I got initiated into the youth culture because of following the TV Fakery, which had come on the heels of a lot of work I'd done with Webster Tarpley where that was conspicuously absent. It wasn't conspicuous until I studied the TV Fakery.
Became aware of
well,
it.
he in his wisdom, being an elder person, also felt it wasn't politically astute to go in this direction, because once you're implicating the media, it's too big of an enemy. You don't have a chance. That's what I think he felt.
Right, that's certainly an arguable position, but I think, looking at it on the other hand, I think it's the easiest to prove, because you set someone down and you show them the CBS shot that I started to talk about earlier. You show them the CBS video of the second plane diving and only flying level right before it hits the tower, and then you set them down and you show them all the other video where the plane is level, and you say, if that's a camera perspective thing or an angle, go out in your backyard, go out in the field and reproduce it.
Right.
Film something that you know is level from 2 cameras and get from one of them to make it look like it's diving. If that was what caused that, it should be very easy to reproduce. It seems to me there's a theory that was presented to us on 9/11 that Flight 175 hit the South Tower and that CBS and all these networks are airing video of that. Okay, that's your theory. If you can show something like the discrepancy in that, and they say, oh, that's camera angle or perspective, say, well, reproduce it. It should be very easy to reproduce, and no one seems to want to do that.
But I think as an older person, you don't want to reproduce it. You don't want to look at it. You don't even want to think about it. Your world is sort of working okay, and you just want to leave it alone.
And you want to go along to get along.
Yeah, so I think with younger people, there would be a chance that they are already challenging other things. Hopefully not so much that they shatter everything and they turn their back on everything. That's not good either, because you know we have a high suicide rate among younger people. That's something that has to be considered too, depression and all that. But if you can strike the balance, and my enthusiasm about real art is that the artist walks through that first. He strikes the balance first within himself, just that he's able to survive. And even if he's surviving on the streets, he's still surviving. He's still grounded in this dimension. And then the rest of the society deals with it. Now in India, there's a whole tradition called avadut, and it's more or less translated as crazy, that these very high consciousness people look to be absolutely lunatic by the rest of the people in society, and usually after they've gone, they're revered as enormous saints, because it was seen in retrospect that it was their consciousness that kept the reality grounded. So I don't know if you knew that you perhaps are part of a tradition. I don't know.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
You know, I mean, there's more to it than that. But I think one does take upon himself quite a heavy cross when you start to see that what everyone is believing is one way is a different way. It's a tricky thing. And that's why I was asking you questions about your family and your friends and so on. And you seem to be very much an artist, that you're very focused on your work, so the lack of a lot of chums going along with you doesn't disturb you.
No, solitude and nothing else to do but the art, and I'm happy doing the art, you know what I mean, right? So.
And what about your parents?
No, it just made me think, you know, you're talking about a generational thing, and the younger generation is more apt to be open to this stuff. It's not a hard and fast rule, that's just a generalization, because it made me think of my grandfather, and how he was very quick to catch on to the fact that the towers coming down could not have been caused by the fire, and that they just fell on themselves. Being an engineer and a carpenter and an electrician, a guy with a basic, a basic understanding, that it jumps out right away that something like that, you know what I mean?
Right. We only have a minute left, so I'm just going to say that we're going to sign off for this show. This is Paula Gloria, and this has been quite an episode, Farther Down the Rabbit Hole. And I'm really appreciative of the input that we had from the control room, because I feel the beauty of public access is that we somehow or another pull together to create something, stand back, assess what we've created, and then carry on. I think that's true art, don't you, Steve?
Indeed.
Yeah. So thank you very much for joining me, and we'll continue on on YouTube if we have enough time in the control room just to keep the tapes rolling. And we'll go on with this discussion. Is that okay in the control room?
Yeah, you want to do another 10 minutes and then I'll set up?
Yeah, yeah. It was about your grandfather. Could elaborate a little more about that.
Well, it's just, what was I saying?
How he saw that that airplanes can't melt buildings.
Right. It's just like, what would you call it? Like a street smarts, a general innate.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And not an investment in the institutions either. He's not getting any funding from, or going to parties, or where people where you'd be out of the group. He's just thinking by himself.
Well, he couldn't bring that up with his friends.
He could not bring it up with his friends.
No, I wouldn't think so. No. So it's like a thing.
You know, I remember my grandfather, just Republican guy. He was sitting there playing solitaire. He used to say, "Paula, this is the devil's prayer book." And he just, he was older, retired, and he was just on his own saying, I don't know about Vietnam. This is no hippie radical in the streets of Berkeley. This was Red Bluff, 200 miles up the Sacramento River. Conservative guy. And he goes, they told us about the Kaiser. We had to go get the Kaiser. And then they told us in World War II. And he said, I don't know about Vietnam. He came to that conclusion by himself, and that stuck with me all these years.
Made me think of isolationism and how I always hear my grandfather say we have no business, one country has no business policing the world and having, troops stationed in, over 100 countries, just a general common sense about things sometimes from a place you might not expect it from an older generation or something on the topics of today.
I take it you're close to your grandfather.
Very, very close to my grandfather.
Right. So what's he thinking lately about the war?
Oh, he's totally against the war. He thinks we should pull out immediately. And
how about his friends?
Probably a little more pro-war.
Pro-war?
Yeah.
That stay the course kind of thing?
Yeah.
Right.
My dad, I think he's pro-war, my father, so.
Have any of them seen some of those videos that are instantly taken down about the bodies that have been zapped by the microwaves, the shrunken heads and then the burned, puffed up?
No.
Have you seen those?
Yeah, it turns my stomach. I don't like to look at that.
Of course not. I mean, when I say that, I only saw a split second of it because it was embedded in an Ozzy Ben Oswald one. And I think he was just sneaking that in to make a point.
That's where I've seen it.
Yeah, yeah. But on the other hand, I can see Nichols Haupt's, people think he's too severe and not balanced in his criticism, but I think it makes a lot of sense that if you are the head of a peace movement and you are not talking about what the weapons are, if you don't even know what the enemy is, how can you know how to strike? And the enemy in this case is a weaponry that's so powerful. As Harold Channer says, we could do species annihilation. We can start off, say, oh, it's the Muslims, it's the Jews, whatever our gripe happens to be. It's the White House, it's Cheney, whatever the scapegoat is. Afterwards, I think I heard in an African tribe they would never kill their enemy because then they'd have to deal with the enemy within. And they didn't want to deal with that because you have to kill yourself.
You have to realize that you need your enemy. You shouldn't want to annihilate your enemies because then you can't contrast, you can't distinguish yourself. You see what I'm saying? You always need a...
So we should respect our enemies, or even like Jesus said, love them.
Fear yourself, love your enemies.
Oh.
But you know what I'm saying? Like every group needs an outside group to distinguish themselves. They're the bad guys, the people that don't get it, the unhip, the uninitiated, and we're groovy, we're cool. You need the contrast, every group, and that group contrasts itself against that group. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So you need to respect your enemies and because they help you identify yourself.
I think enemy may only be when you have scarce resources. So we're back again to scarcity being transcended as something very important.
And
what Marshall Rosenberg said, who's worked so much in the Middle East with Palestinians, with Israelis, he has 1,000 schools of nonviolent communication, which means people who are teaching people about the importance of making connections of empathy, that once you stop labeling somebody from where the label can allow you to do monstrous things against them, if you instead connected with them as fellow human beings who all share the same needs,
Right.
then a child, he said, can resolve it. Like in the case, I remember Alan was behind the camera when we were interviewing. And he said, what about Palestine and Israel? Don't they both need the same land? And he said, no, the land is a strategy. They both need security. They both need, food and shelter.
Exactly.
But the land is a strategy to achieve that. So once you see land as only a strategy, then you can connect with the needs. And once human beings have that connection of empathy that we all share the same needs, then very naturally you go towards the resolution and you work it out.
I think what would help is if people realize they can't define themselves. You can't define self without other.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know who you are if it wasn't for all the other. You know what I mean? And once you realize that there's a unity, to murder a whole group, it'd be like cutting your own arm off.
Right.
You wouldn't want to do that.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. And I think that's when I've had models of advanced civilizations off planet who have sort of overcome the hurdle that we're tangling with right now, that actually a greater population and a greater diversity and a greater viewpoint of different strategies to meet these needs is necessary. We need more diversity to make our life richer and to go into unfolding the greater realities, the new realities.
And explicit difference just screams implicit unity. The more, you know what I mean, the more different things are, it's just screaming that there's a unity. It's like two sides of the same coin. They're different, but you can't have one without the other.
Right.
So.
Wow. Okay, so I guess we'll wrap it up. Is there any more comments from the control room on that? Alan, I know you as an artist always talk about the art. Any comments about art?
No, I think it's just important.
Do you want to pick up a
that
mic
people
and
just explore alternatives?
We can't hear you. There's another mic around here.
Want me to come on there?
Yeah, come on.
Oh. No, I'm just
There's a
saying,
third mic. There's a third mic around
I'm just
here.
saying I may
Oh, he's got
not
it.
always
Okay.
agree with the expression of art, but I agree with the ability to express it.
Right.
So, people made art under the Nazis. It doesn't mean it was good art, but, it was still art because it helped shift people's consciousness, well, in that way, a negative way.
And we shouldn't let any emotional prejudices or deter us from looking at art as art.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
But I think the artist has a responsibility then to on some level, as well. So I think you can make art, but the artist has a responsibility as a vehicle, as a channel for society.
You remember when I had DiCramo here and he was talking about Hartfield.
Mm.
And those were artists that were trying to speak against the antagonism they were trying to create in Germany of the British. So the artists were trying for the unity. That's what I'm saying, the TV Fakery.
Well, I know you're trying to wake people up, but we all have to be awake on a certain level in order to wake people up, too. So how do you know what to believe is true?
Well, in the case of Nico Haupt there's a guy that's been pigeonholed as a lunatic. Mm-hmm. And he was showing him and pointing out, like taking the E that I said in binary economics, mm-hmm. and punctuating it in such a way to say, if the society is failing and the institutions are failing, which we clearly are, we've got shanty towns and we've got homeless. We were at the Time Warner for the franchise. Time Warner's making billions. People are paying $50, $80 for their cable, and they're being thrown out on the streets. They aren't even in a house.
Wait. People are paying $50 for the cable, and they're being thrown out
whatever,
on the street.
Whatever is generating revenues in the billions should belong to the people who don't even have housing. And we should be able to employ carpenters to build the houses. We should build more intelligent apartment
true. The
buildings.
Whole society
We should
is
do
messed up.
geodesic.
Why are we building weapons and putting when we could be
because we're afraid
feeding
to
people?
We are building the weapons, but we are not informed about the weapons. So we
Right,
can't
it's
stop.
a whole undercover industry.
We can't stop building the weapons until we really understand. And that's why I'm saying,
Well,
if
remove
his
the
art,
veil.
if his art
Remove the
is
veil. I agree.
if his art is painful or difficult or it's not enjoyable, maybe, and then you see the young people where it is, like for me it's hugely enjoyable because I felt he got me. The binary economics, the E, he got me how I'm at it with Harold when people are saying ditch Harold because, you know, you're never going to make yourself marketable. That I felt seen. I felt his art saw me.
That's good.
And I dig it, so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alan, for expressing your concern that art might mislead people. Is that right, Alan?
Yeah. I have a question.
Josh, come.
I'd like to ask a question, a very serious question. Now, where's the microphone?
You have to be loud.
No need it, we can hear you.
He's loud, I'm sorry.
Okay, here's the question I want to ask
Maybe
very honestly.
stoop down a little.
No,
and
I've been
come out.
also, not only have I been working in the control room, but I've been a member of the audience. The first thing I want to ask you is, you're a musician and an artist. So how do you justify being, and I have to repeat the question?
Yeah, is the tape in?
The
Okay,
tape
we're
is
rolling.
It
Okay,
won't start
okay.
until 1, 2, 3. Now it will pick up.
Okay, Josh,
Repeat my question?
repeat your question.
Yeah. I was working in the control room, and I'm also a member of the audience, and I would like to ask Steve, how do you explain or justify that you're a musician, not an engineer,
Not a physicist.
or a physicist? How do you explain that photography on the World Trade Center was a farce? How can you really scientifically explain that?
First of all, I never proclaimed myself as an expert on it, but I don't think you have to be an expert to look at a piece of video and see an object flying in a straight line and look at another video purportedly of the same object doing that motion. It doesn't take, like, if I showed you a picture of George Jetson and said it's George Bush, you don't need to be an expert to know that's fake. That's not really George Bush, it's George Jetson. If an object is going like this, it can't be going like that at the same time. So, boom, there's fakery going on. It seems to me undeniable, unless you can reproduce that, and if you can film something that's level and make it look like it's going down. I don't know any other way to do that. So it's like, what level of expertise and understanding of photography and physics is needed? I don't proclaim myself, I'm not doing analytical work. I'm doing more of what Paula's talking about, bringing people in and just using the music and the art. But as far as talking about how can I be so confident to say it's a farce, it's like common sense. It's not like expertise is not needed. Isn't it just common sense that the same object can't, you know? So that would be my answer.
So what photography are you analyzing? Are you analyzing photography that may have been edited for the purposes of media presentation?
No, I'm analyzing a CBS live shot and a replay where the plane does that. And then I look at all the other video and the plane does that. And in the same way that I could show you a picture of me and you know it's not Paula, what photography background do you have to be able to make that? None. It's common sense. That would be my answer. So.
Are you satisfied, Josh?
Well, I think the best thing is to look at the footage. Why don't we do a show where we can actually look at the
Maybe after
your,
when are your guests finished?
Okay,
Can we
around
do it later?
4:30,
So let's do it at
Why don't you
4:30.
pull it up on the screen? We'll look
Okay,
at all
we'll
the different
prepare
angles.
for 4:30. Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you, Gloria.
Thank you.
I'm going to unmic myself now because
just
the
leave
show's
it there.
over.
You didn't stream this, did you?
No. Because I couldn't chroma key it, so they weren't able to see the roll.
Programs I've ever been part of.
See what I mean? If they wouldn't know what we were talking about.